Good evening and welcome again to the Literary Hour. We're all different places. I'm in my office today, but I hope you will still join us for this stimulating talk. And of course, as always, hi, Prof.
Jackie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm
How are you
okay.
doing? Nice to
Yeah,
be
I
around here.
just came from the Liberian Studies Conference, and you were there also.
Yes, yes.
So, a
Stimulating
mad
one.
dash from one conference to another discussion. Yeah, yeah.
Which
So,
is in the heart of the absurd man. We
yes,
are in
yes,
absurdities, moving
yes.
here, moving there, and we never know where we're ever going to stop and that sort of a thing. Anyway,
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the human condition, and I hope that you all have read a little bit about it so we can discuss it. We're going to talk about Albert Camus, the myth of Sisyphus. But before that, we're going to explain what the myth of Sisyphus is to those who don't know, and then we will move from there. So, Prof, I think we have a
mm-hmm.
I think we have a sorry, I am trying.
the
Yep. So here it is. So you want to tell us a little bit about
yeah,
Sisyphus?
the when we come to the myth of Sisyphus, this is another moment where we see the power of literature at work to infuse dynamism into language. Uh, we have all these phrases, we have all these concepts and all that kind of a thing. And when we bring them all together, that is why it is often said that all language is a metaphor. All language is a metaphor. We go in there, and there are certain things through experiences, either vicarious experience or through physical experience, that we've come to know. And those things are often eventually expressed, pour out into language. And that is why those who read a whole lot know a whole lot. They don't know everything, but they know a whole lot. And in the case of the myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus brings in that myth to a kind of discourse, the frustration, the disappointment, the all not knowing and yet knowing things that human beings boast of. That is what you find in the myth of Sisyphus. First of all, myth in a general sense is drawn from folklore. Myth has to do with the explanation of things in nature, how women came to be, how men came to be, how their structures and all those things came. They have what? They have stories for them, and those stories are called myths. In the case of the myth of Sisyphus, we are talking about one of the Greek gods who was cursed because of his mouth, because of his rascality, to be cursed to the point throughout eternity, to be rolling a boulder. And we might bring the picture back again for you to see. Rolling a boulder. They curse him to roll a boulder as long as we live in this world. He will roll it up. As part of the curse, he will roll it up. Then, of course, it will slip from him and it will go down, and he will run behind it and start rolling it up again. And so if you are told that you are Sisyphus, it means that you work yourself to what? To death. That's what it means when they say the myth of Sisyphus. So in the case of uh, what Albert Camus is talking about the absurdity of life, which he calls the myth of Sisyphus, the absurdity means incongruence, irrationality, not being able to be understood. That is what absurdity is within the context of what he's saying there. So the absurdity of Sisyphus has got to do with humanity. It's got to do with humanity. Who are we? What is life? What responsibility do we owe to ourselves and to other people? What does that mean? Who is God? Does God exist? How do we what? How do we relate to God and all that? If we die, whose business is that? If we kill somebody, whose business is that? All these things are questions that continue to what? To kind of fuse the human mind. And that is what we are talking about as far as the absurdity of life or the myth of Sisyphus is concerned.
Okay, and I'm sure most of you have read about Sisyphus, and like Prof has explained, one of the reasons why he was, Prof explained that it was his trickery.
Yes,
He tried to outwit the gods
yes,
by chaining death.
yes,
And then Zeus, when Zeus go to war, nobody can die because he had chained death.
yes,
So his punishment was to roll this boulder up a hill. But as soon as the boulder gets up the hill, Zeus will let it go down again. So it was a meaningless task. It was a continuous task that he was supposed to do, and that's why when you say I have a Sisyphean task, it means that it's like it's almost futile, but you have to do it. So that's the myth of Sisyphus. So Abba Camus took this myth of Sisyphus and then did the absurdity of life, the human crisis, to explain, to say what's happening. Why do we need to always be doing the things that we know will lead nowhere? What life is futile according to him,
yes.
but yet we live life. So this is the myth of Sisyphus. So today we're going to start by discussing it, and discussing the human condition, that what it is that makes us do these repetitive tasks when we know that we'll have to get up again and do it again and again and again. And we can even relate it to our country. Why is it that from year after year we're saying, oh, we will fix this, we'll change this? Why is it that things are not changing? Is Liberia like the boulder that the minute we a few people try to push it up, something happens and it rolls back down? Yeah.
How
Prof,
can
I
we
think,
have
yeah,
that rhythm? Yes.
yeah. So I think that's what we're going to discuss. So Prof, let's get into it. Let's get into this Sisyphean
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
And as we are working our way through the myth of Sisyphus or the absurdity of life, we also need to think about some of the spiritual related things we've been talking about. We talk about Galileo's letter. We talk about sinners in the hands of an angry God. All these things in some way relate to the human condition.
Yeah.
What is this thing that continues to be a burden on us, that we never so easily understand ourselves, that we never so easily program ourselves in such a way that we will continue along the path that all of us are supposed to be applauding? And yet, at some point, something happens and everything breaks apart, just as you said earlier. Then all of a sudden, sometimes somebody says, will we ever put Liberia in a better way to live this world? Will we? And you said jokingly, we shall say, well, look, this thing is not what a superlative. The idea is that maybe we never get to where we want to go until we leave this world. Yet the whole idea of what is going on is that we are challenged. We have the capacity, as Galileo says, we have a mind. God did not give us this mind for nothing. God did not give us emotions for nothing. He gave us all these things to be able to bring them all together. And that is why it is very much important that conversations are important. Dialoguing is important. Holding together is, we have to understand that we are group animals. Group animals meaning that we are supposed to always, like this guy, Churchill would say, let us work, instead of war, let us jaw. Let us always come together and work together. And something meaningful, something magical is going to happen if we put our hands to the plow.
I think Abba Camus, when he was writing his article, it's almost like, why do we do what we do?
Yes,
So Sisyphus, he has been cursed. The gods have said to him, you will push this boulder up the hill every day,
Yeah, true eternity. Yes.
you know, and when it almost gets to the top of the hill, phew, it goes back down.
Mhm.
So Sisyphus is cursed. He has to do that. So Albert Camus is saying, what is it that propels us? You know, what is it? Because remember, in one part he says, you know, when you think about the absurdity of life, you will be led to suicide.
Yes.
You know, you will be led to suicide. You'll be
Mhm.
like, this life is fruitless. And so,
Yes.
what is it? What is that motivating factor?
And yet, in the middle of it is the word H. The H word is what? Hope again.
Yeah,
Hope.
hope. Yes, yes. He says hope.
Yes.
Yes, you know, and the thing is also that with us, it could be religion.
Yeah.
You know, God says we should work for people, so we work and think. So the motivating factor, what is the motivating factor that makes you push this boulder up
Yeah.
the hill
True
at
eternity.
times knowing that
Mhm.
it's going to come down?
Yes. What
You
is it?
know, because it's going to come down. Okay, so with Sisyphus, they say the maddening nature of the punishment, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's pointless. It's interminable,
Yes.
right? So this is his punishment. So
Yes.
if you look at us, Camus is saying, okay, you know what? Life is punishment. He says life is punishment. If you think about the nothingness of life, you will kill yourself. You will go mad because life is absurd. But what is it that makes you in the morning get up and push that boulder, right? And there's a very good quote that he has in a second. Let me just add it so we can read it. He says, "It happens that the stage set collapse, right?
Yes.
Rising streetcar, 4 hours in the office or in the factory. You eat meal, streetcar, 4 hours of work. You eat, sleep. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Same rhythm, right? But one day the why arises and everything begins in that weariness tinged with amazement begins. This is important. Weariness comes at the end of the act of a mechanical life,
Yes.
but at the same time it inaugurates the impulse of consciousness. It
Yes.
awakens consciousness and provokes what follows. What follows is the gradual return into the chi, or it is a definitive waking.
Yes.
I love that
Yes.
because that's
That,
what he
that
says.
that is at the central of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what he says. He says, you know, one day you you keep doing the same thing over and over, but one day you're going to ask yourself, why? That is the awakening. Why do I do this?
And at the heart of it, the thing about it is you must not engage in mindless work. You must not engage in mindless work, because if you engage in mindless work, you will not have um, focus on the process. It is the process eventually that gets you to the point of saying, hey, why? But if you are just going about it mindlessly, then that is where the recklessness comes in. That is where the weariness comes in. That is where the something that consumes you to the point of no return comes into the picture. So there
Yeah,
have to be, and that is why I thought that we will even talk about, again, bring in Galileo again. This
yes,
mind, this brain that God has given us is no small brain. You cannot allow it to be a potato. You must engage in it while you are doing some particular thing, and that is going to arise something in us. That reminds me of a short piece. I think it's a I'm not two paragraph, but a two-page thing by Eric Hoffer, Huffer. Eric Hoffer. He talks about dull work. He says there is nothing called dull work. You might talk about a weak mind, a lethargic mind. But if you keep your mind at work, you are going to keep creativity at work, so that nothing that seems mundane is mundane to you. Nothing that seems boredom is boredom to you, because you will have you will create an active mind.
yeah. And we talk about that. So if we pertain to Liberia, let's try to make it in a little concrete. If we pertain to
Yes.
to Liberia
Yes.
situation. right? So we talk about this Rostow's stages of economic growth, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And I kept saying, oh my God, he says that for a country to move from one stage to the other, it takes 60 years,
mm,
right?
mm,
So you are in this, and just look at Liberia now. So we were in a traditional stage, right? He said a country is in a traditional stage, right? And then something happens, something revolutionary happens, and then we are what? We are poised to take off. The country is ready. The country say, "Oh yeah, this thing has happened. We're ready to jump." And then what happens? We take off, right? We take off, and then there's high consumption and whatever. But it's same as if every time Liberia is poised to take off, that boulder rolls down. There is something that stops us from. Yet it is hope that makes us push that boulder again. We push Liberia again. We say it will get there. But yet it's always poised to take off, right? And then the boulder comes down.
mhm.
And then another generation, let's say we die, another generation comes and they push it again. And it's poised to take off and then it comes back down.
Yeah.
So there must be, like our speaker yesterday, there must be structural changes, right? I don't because he said you have to have structural changes. You're not just going to pin the house if the foundation is rotten. You have to have structural changes.
And,
So I agree with Lucia Clark. It's the mind. I think we who are pushing this boulder up the hill, we have to find another way for the boulder to get up the hill. Maybe the old way of pushing it is not the way, but this Sisyphus an analogy is almost like Liberia. We are almost in a futile quest, a task of pushing this up. What do you think, Prof?
yeah, I mean, the thing about we talk about structural change, then the question is, what might become the parts of the structure? Is it going to be steps? Is it going to be physical type thing? What is going to be? And who must be there to design? Who must be able to provide the prototype of this structure? Now, we've got to a point in life that we are so interdependent that even the minds that come together steal from one another. That's what it gets to be. So when you say that we want to set up, create an African structure, what do we mean by African structure? Do we mean the people? Do we mean the resources that will set up the structure? So in other words, then it comes to a point where that we might want to go to where we're talking about in the conference, where somebody says we talk about colonialism, and we can't talk about black colonialism because and I'm saying to myself, colonialism, we can get the features, the characteristics of colonialism, and what do the transplantation, do the analogy, and what have you. So you cannot say because this person says a Liberian colonization or colonization, what have you, it doesn't exist. No, this person is extrapolating. So we have the task. We who call ourselves the intelligentsia, we have to what? We have to come together and say, well, this is the so-called universal structure, or this is the European structure. These are the parts. Now, these are the parts we can use for what? For Africa, or these are the parts we can use for Liberia, and these other parts, no, we throw them away. So we have to come to that understanding. That is where initially we said that we talk about the importance of dialogue, we talk about the importance of conversation. We have to understand that we have the meeting of the minds. We have to find out whether we have the meeting of the minds. Then we sit down in little think tanks and what have you, and do the structuring, the renewed structure that we can use for our country.
So if we have Sisyphus, who is one person pushing the boulder,
Yes.
right? If you come to a country, right, like before any change, you have to agree what boulder is it that we are pushing up.
What boulder? What boulder?
What boulder?
That's the problem.
Yes, because this boulder constitutes this thing that we keep calling development.
Yes.
So who's going to push it up? We as a people. But what is it that we're going to push up? So it's there are so many things in, like when we're speaking about the allegory of the cave,
Yes.
right? We said that Plato could not, Aristotle could not have said it any better. We are all shackled
Yeah.
looking at the wall.
Yes.
Something happens. Now that's something that happens, I would say, is Rostos like poised to take off,
Yes.
right? Some people get released and then they see that, oh, the thing I was looking at on the wall was only a shadow.
Yeah.
There's the fire in front of me. And then they walk towards that fire and from there out of the cave.
Yeah.
And Aristotle said, but it is your duty when you get out of that cave to return
Yes.
and help those who are down there come up.
Yeah.
But one of the things you and I discussed was that when people are unshackled, they don't just look into the fire directly.
No.
It will hurt their eyes.
Light. The new
They
light.
come on that walkway to adjust their eyesight before looking at the fire. So that walkway is a way to guide them,
Mhm.
give them more knowledge, so they are able to say, okay, I want more, I want more.
To acclimatize them, yes, to what is
Yeah.
becoming.
Yeah. So this myth of Sisyphus, this thing that just keeps get pushing Liberia, and Liberia keeps coming back down. This thing that even in your own life, you get up in the morning, like he says, you go to work, you come back, you eat, you sleep, you go to work, you come back, you eat, you sleep. What is it that's motivating you besides paying your rent and other things? Let's say if people say, oh, I have rent. So that's your motivation. Or why is it that you have to work? Oh, I have to take care of my kids. That's being a good father or a good mother. But he says it is the absurdity of life. Because if you ask your questions, you will find, according to him, that people who say life is meaningless. And some people who find that life is meaningless then turn and say, I'm going to commit suicide, which is not the answer. But he said, if you really look at life and see how meaningless life is, you are going to commit suicide. But then he said something. He says that so he says that when you're pushing, right? You're pushing. So it falls down, you go back, right? When the boulder rolls down, he says, right? When it rolls down and you watch the rock rolling back down, right? And then you have to go back to get the rock, to get that boulder. It is during that return, he said, that pause that interests him. He said, because your face that toys so close to stone is already stone itself. I see the man going back down with a heavy heart, measured step toward the torment of which he will never know the end. That hour, like a breathing space, which returns as surely as his suffering. At each of those moments when he leaves the heights and gradually slink or sink towards to get the boulder, right? He is stronger than his rock.
The thing about, there's something that is important, that is elevating, that is healing, that is called the magical break. That magical break, that point of meditation, that point of reflection is very much important, because there you are a kind of regaining your senses, you regaining your strength to be able to press on again. So that magical pause is very much important.
Yeah. But what he's saying is that you're stronger now. Okay, forget about Sisyphus. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods.
Yeah.
So Sisyphus has to go back and get the rock. But he says, we as a people, right? When that rock rolls down, when that boulder comes back down the hill, and we pause, right? Because we're looking at it now.
It is a pause, yes.
Yeah, knowing that we have to go and roll it back up.
Yes.
right? So he says that pause is the one that he's interested in, because
Mhm.
what it shows is that at that point in time, you are stronger than the boulder, because now you have the decision to decide, do I want to pick it up again,
Mhm.
right? Do I want to pick it up again? And that is the question. Do you want to already pick it up again?
And yet we should not forget that the Bible also says that when God says, out of your what? Out of your the sweat of your brow you shall what? Get your daily bread.
Yes,
So that is it. The same curse. The idea that you remain in perpetual toil until you leave this world. Perpetual toil. So that is an analogy to the whole thing about the myth of Sisyphus. The idea that you are cursed. Yes, it's the time of the Greeks, and you talk about the gods or whatever. But it is also, if you look through a lot of religious history and what have you, you are going to find this whole idea of, hey, you've got to stand in your own spot to make things happen. Otherwise, you are doomed forever. So the myth of Sisyphus, like you said, is the myth that encompasses all of us. What we do with it, the breaks we have, and what we do within the period of the breaks become very much important. We there go for energy. We there go for whatever is supposed to inspire us, and that's where he talks about between what between suicide and death is the third element, the middle
yes,
element, which is hope. Which
yes,
is hope. Otherwise, it is hope that takes us up, that tomorrow it will be better. Some time ago, I listened to two girls, two Liberians who were deceived to go to Oma to go for. They said they were going there for work and whatever. It turned out to be a terrible experience for them. And then there they came to the realization that Liberia was indeed their country in terms of whatever happens, what doesn't happen. Liberia is there to stay for them. Liberia is there to provide things for them. So it is the moment. It is the moment. Again, we come back to that moment. It is the moment of reflection. Whether we are going to follow that same ugly path or something else is going to happen to us that drives us on.
yeah. And the boulder, I mean, it could not be, of course it's not a tangible boulder, so
Yeah,
we
of course.
say, okay, you know what, it's almost like what Dr. Don spoke of today, this
Mhm.
morning, right? The Liberian identity.
Yeah,
And we talk about that, and we said that even when we were here, you and I, for July 26th, I think last year,
yeah,
we asked the audience to write just
uh,
a very short essay. What does Liberia mean to me?
yeah,
You know? And hardly anybody wrote. I
yeah.
think we got like five or six, and that was it. And some of them were very negative.
Yes,
Yet at the same time, Ghana did that.
yeah.
Ghana had a project like, what does it mean to be a Ghanaian?
Uh-huh.
And they got thousands of entries, right? So this boulder that we're pushing up could be the Liberian identity, Liberian unity, nationalism, but there is something that is making that boulder roll back down, because we are not condemned like Sisyphus. We could reach the top,
Yeah.
but it is the differences within us as a people,
Mm.
right? So if the boulder rolls down, you say hope. But I say the thing is that it's almost like when the boulder is rolling and people are seeing it, like Camus says, when that boulder is rolling and you pause, what makes you go back down? And of course, you say hope. We say hope.
It might be
It-
better tomorrow.
yeah, it will be better tomorrow. But yet, every time we push it up, it comes back down. We push it up, it comes back down. So, what is it that will help us to keep that boulder up where it belongs? That's the question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you have
yeah, that's the
comments?
that's the question. So let's look. So Camus says, let's look at the next one. Camus says, um, he says the struggle itself towards the height is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Do you really think that, Prof?
It's a paradox.
That because you're going up the hill, you're happy?
Yeah.
Because the realization is you think you will reach the top.
Yes.
So he said you must imagine Sisyphus to be happy, even though he's not. But then he said we must never forget that we may also find meaning in life even when confronted with a hopeless situation,
Mhm.
when facing a fate that cannot be changed. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves, right? And
And
then he says everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedom, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way. Yeah, I like that. So what he's saying is that we have the choice. We have the choice to decide to go back down for that boulder.
and Randy Curtis, what does he say? I think, therefore, what?
I am.
I think, therefore, I am.
Yeah.
A lot of things, as we've been doing, a lot of things revolve around this human mind. A lot of things revolve around this human mind. The creative capacity of the human mind, if we lose it, then we are lost for good. So we have to, and again, I cannot overemphasize this, which is dialogue, conversation, or what have you. But of course, it's not just any dialogue, it's not just any conversation. That is why one has to be able to identify those important minds, that need to congregate together. If you cannot find the minds to congregate, then definitely there's another problem that is wrong with you. Who are your friends? What do you discuss? What if you engage in frivolity? Then definitely you frivolous things are going to happen. But you've got to go at things with that kind of beautiful intention that is going to bring the value of the individual, so that bringing it all together, we can make a type of progress that, looking many years behind, we can say we are glad we held together and moved to a particular point. There's got to be dialogue. There's got to be conversation. And on what? There's got to be a beautiful focus. We cannot tell ourselves that we are in this world for nothing. We don't need a pastor to preach that to us. We have to be able to find our niche, a specific niche, and work with it until it blossoms into something very much important.
And
Lots
De
of that,
Tocqueville said that. De
huh?
Tocqueville said that when he came to the United States and he toured, he said the strength of America, well, that was in those days, which was way way back. But he
Yes,
said the strength of America was that wherever he went, there were these small organizations,
yes,
community groups that would get together, clean
yes,
their streets, get
yes,
together, discuss the school, how to
yes,
make the school better. And
yes,
he said that was the strength of the United States. These
yes.
small groups
But
that were doing the work that should
yes.
be done, laying the groundwork, right?
Now,
Yeah.
now think about it. Think about how many people who walk the streets or walk the pathways of Monrovia, and see dirt on sides of roads and what have you, and decide to just hold your nose and pass and go somewhere else. Or even decide to hold a drink party right, sometimes even quarter of a mile away from that dirt and what have you, and go about their business. How beautiful would that be if people who are not urged, people who are not pushed, will get together and say, no, we are doing cleaning up today, we are doing this today, or we are doing XYZ. How very beautiful that would be.
And Prof, I will try and play devil's advocate here
Yes,
because
please go
you're
ahead.
right. Even in my neighborhood, they have you will see on the streets, they will say this street has been adopted, right,
Yes.
by this group, and
Uh-huh.
you see them cleaning. But I would say, and I'm playing devil's advocate, I would say that these groups that come together
Yes.
to clean the streets, be PTA president, do
Yes.
volunteer jobs, they feel a part of the society.
Yes.
They feel they belong.
Hmm.
So they want to give back to the society by saying, "Here, let me give back in my own little way."
Yes.
Do you think that? the average Liberian feels a part of the Liberian community, that they would be willing to take time off their Saturday or Sunday to say, you know what, let's do this.
Well, that's where that's where leadership comes in. And sometimes leadership is not a push on people. People should be able to take certain roles, and over time, that can blossom into something important. Uh, if I live in a community, if I live in a community, even if I'm renting, if I live in a community, and my sense of decency tells me that to have a dirty community, there will be the diseases coming from there, and the diseases will not affect just one person, it will affect a lot of people. So somebody has got to have sense enough to be community oriented, to be environment oriented, to understand that just going up and down in a community is not enough. If you are in a community, see that you have life and you are trying as much as possible to somehow invest. It doesn't have to be money. It's got to be energy and all those things there. So the question of, do you think people, it depends. There are others who say, well, I'm not invested in the work. But a a good person within the context of understanding life should be able to understand that once you are part of a community, you are part of that community. I may be wrong. Somebody might say, no, that's not true. But someone who believes in life and believes in other people will try as much as possible. Just as when it comes to football, for instance, soccer, for instance, there are a lot of people who may take interest in certain teams and therefore root for them. So in the same fashion, you can create that kind of energy, enthusiasm, and all those things, and bring them to bear within the context of where you are and what you are doing.
Okay, let's just look at some of our comments. Lucia Clark says welcome, and Prof. If you don't know, Lucia is we grew up together,
Yeah.
my best buddy,
Oh,
but
is
she's
that
in
right?
Liberia now. Yes, yes, we grew up together, reading books,
Ah,
really growing up.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So hi, Lucia, welcome.
Yeah, welcome
Yeah.
to.
So are we being punished? So are we, Prof, are we being punished like Sisyphus? Do you think we're being punished?
Yeah, but because we can never know the cosmological plan of human beings, we can talk about that, but of course we don't know. So it is possible, but yet there has to be a moment by our own training, by our own experiences or what have you, to break the shackle of what that punishment. It is upon us, as far as the myth of Sisyphus is concerned, it is upon us to try as much as possible to break that yoke of what? The punishment.
Okay, and do you think that as you're pushing this boulder up, which is it's the punishment that you bring the boulder back down.
Yeah.
So this punishment that is meted out to us or to Sisyphus,
Yes.
right? As we keep going back up, like you say, we have this hope that we will reach the top, right?
Yes.
Liberians have this hope.
Yes.
So the punishment is that we keep rolling back down,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yet, yet hope by itself means nothing. That's what they say. Faith without works is dead, right? The same
Yeah.
thing. You can have hope from now to judgment day. If someone who is always lying down, I joked about that some time ago. When I came from when I traveled from the States and went back home with my masters and whatever, I met one of my friends uh, who have something on their door. The downfall of a man is not the end of his life. But every time I went to visit with him, he was in the room. And I'm saying back, the thing about what you have on this thing doesn't mean anything. Slogans by themselves, mantra by themselves don't mean anything. You've got to take active role to begin to make things happen. Unless you make things happen, you will live in hope. You will live in this mythical hope that means nothing. So you've got to find ways to begin to get things going.
Yeah, while you were talking, I remember I started to think. I said, maybe the boulder is not going up because we are pushing it in different directions. I mean that is why. Because some people think that, oh, okay, if we push it to the east, it might get there faster. If we push it to the west, it might get there faster. There is no there is no
Predetermined way in which it goes, and you must be able. looking at experiences to be able to determine the path that they will go and get there fast.
Yes, there is no national narrative.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to people about Zambia, they always say to me, "Oh, you like Zambia too much," and I'm like, "No, of course I love Liberia." When you get to Zambia, when you greet people, Prof, when you shake them, they hold your hand and they say one Zambia,
Yeah.
and the other person say one people.
Yeah.
Then they say one Zambia. They say one nation. You see, those are things that brings a country together. So the national unity that we're talking about, it may not happen overnight because you're still pushing the boulder up. But like Prof Don said this morning, surely there are good things in Liberia. That's why when we're ending this show, we always say lift Liberia up. No country is 100% bad. But it seems as if there's this toxic mix that takes pleasure, because I think that, and I'm going on this philosophical rant, but I think that it is not the gods, right, that push our borders down. It is us. It is us. It is the media. It is the people who talk. So when the fortunate few are pushing the border up, it is the millions that push it down. It is not the gods. We are the gods, and we push it up, and these people push it down. What do you think about that?
Well, the thing about at the heart of it all again comes the point of when when Dr. Don was making and we talk about what is it, the tapestry of consequences.
Consanguinity.
And
Yes.
then I said, well, there is the problem of de-emphasis, the problem of de-emphasis. See what we're talking about. Uh, Clarence Simpson dies. Clarence Simpson dies, and they go there and they see his what? His partial parentage.
Yes.
What is that? And he is in the tradition of so many people who had Congo fathers and indigenous mothers. But why were those mothers de-emphasized? Because they didn't have the what I call the settler meal ticket. They ran for the settler meal ticket. It was only after the coup that they were able to flash from their back pocket what? The native meal ticket. All along, the meal ticket that would bring them a lot of food was the settler meal ticket. And if you have a society that kind of uh, emphasizes one parentage over the other, and if the parentage that is emphasized is in the control and it has been there for a good time, definitely there is a drag on the movement. So what people have to do, I'm very thankful to God that we've got to the age now that natives who may not have known anything, they have begun to participate in Western thought and what? Practices. And those people now have gone to create a new realm of thinkers and those who engage one another to be able to take Liberia to the next level. So it is not a matter of who are you? You don't know anything anymore. It is high time now that those people work together. That is where the hybridity will have the kind of energy to be able to produce results.
It's what Arundhati Roy said, and I'm thinking about the Ebola,
Yeah.
right? Ebola brought Liberians together,
Okay. Uh-huh.
you know, and she talked about the COVID, and she
Yeah.
said, look, the COVID, as bad as it is a time for us to rethink. It's almost like the world stopped
Yes.
and we are going to rethink. And she said, but it's a portal, right? It's a little tunnel. When we are leaving the COVID world to go to that new world, what are you taking with you? You're leaving old baggages. You will decide this new suitcase that I have, what am I putting inside to get to the other side? You know? So it is almost like we are going to be 175 years, right? This national dialogue must take place
Mhm.
to be able to get to the other side,
Yeah.
and the bicentennial, as nice as it was, will be only the first step. People need to have a frank discussion, and I mean, at the Liberian Studies Conference, just by discussing about the selling of the land, people got all agitated
Mhm.
when we said no. You cannot talk about selling to a group that doesn't know the concept
Nobody.
of purchase,
You can
but
have
all
things
of a sudden, so we
history.
have to get to a place where we can have a civil discussion without people insulting or saying this, but to discuss and say, you know what, we are all one people. So this commonality, Prof, needs to be enhanced. So I'm thinking that, it could be that the boulder that's going up is the commonality. We're pushing the things that bind us together, but when we get up, some people say, oh, yes, the differences, and then it rolls back down. You see, so we have to continue pushing this thing to say, no, no, the commonalities are more than the differences. So we
And
will keep pushing it up.
programs have to be created. It's not don't talk about it. No, don't talk about it. You have to create programs, programs of inclusivity, programs of commonality. You have even clothes, the footwear, clothes, and all those things. The food and all those. There has to be a massive way of programs to be able to handle this, so that even when somebody is trying to bring in a difference, it will be drowned out. That voice will be drowned out. But you can't say, no, you don't talk about, hey, hey, man, my people, you're always talking about, hey, your stuff. No. There are some people that are mischievous. They just get a kick from what? Emphasizing those things that will annoy other people. But you have to find programs. Is it sports? Is it education? How many times, of course, we have the road problem and what have you. Can we create escorts to go from every, you have what you call an annual pilgrimage, where you go every year you go from what you go from. It can be a 1 month, it can be a 1 month program, where it starts with this time we are moving. We have buses that are taking us from Cape Mount to what, Cape Amos. You have people going that way, and at every level you have programs that are talking about what, themes of unity, so there has to be, the short of the long is that there've got to be those programs that are inclusive, that are communal. Those programs, over time, people will always be looking forward to them. The idea that something like that is happening and people are looking forward to that every year. It's not just 1 year and you're finished with whatever. Every year we take a month from that and go from what, from, by the time you know what's happening, all those places, and people are showing their videos to them. Even if they go into video clubs and what have you, if you see a Loma group embracing what, a Ma group or a Dan group, or a crew group, or not, that sort of a thing, over time people will want to look forward to those things. I believe in the goodness of human beings, and I believe in the goodness of Liberians to espouse for those things.
Yeah, let's see. Person, please, my sister, that just to pay rent and bills, business person can get up in the morning for. So this is when we're asking the question, why do you get up?
Mhm.
Every morning. You say this morning, Umpa, I was so mad. I was just saying to myself, why is it not Friday evening already? Person go through 8 hours to that workplace today before it gets in the evening. And that's what we said. We said that work, right? Work. Some people is work, but Camus is saying that life is just absurd.
Mhm.
Lucia Clark said the point where we pause is the time to decide whether to move or remain where we are. Exactly.
Mhm.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, because and then we tend to keep it rolling down, you know. And he said, and Camus said we must think of we must think of him as being happy. But he says that because he says that when you have a certain he says it right. He said
It's
when
something
you
you
have a
cannot change. Yeah.
when he says that when you are confronted with a hopeless situation,
Yeah.
when facing a fate that cannot be changed, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we
Yes.
are challenged to change ourselves. So he
Yes.
says that when Sisyphus feels like, okay, you know what, I can't do anything about it, Sisyphus is happy, which I don't think,
When he
but
says, well, that's why he says we must imagine.
we must
The,
imagine, yeah.
the idea is probably at the heart of it all is uh, we cannot do much about it now. So
Yeah,
that's what to do. What to do? That
yeah.
I'm reminded of during the war. You had self that the relief organization that the Blamoness and a few others were part of. They decided they will have a seminar, a workshop, and what was their theme? Living together, even though that living together, even though that we are living together. There's nothing we can do. We cannot help it. We cannot kill these other people and still be alive. The best thing we can do is try as much as possible to create that environment that is going to bring us all in, so that we try as much as possible, even though it's difficult, to find those things that make us good together than things that make us foolish apart.
Yeah, the Facebook user said the divide is painful. Sometimes I really wonder how we as a nation can resolve our issues. Seems so far fetched.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
And
thing. Go ahead.
no. You can answer that before
Okay,
we
the
go
thing
on.
the thing about it is, it's not enough talking. How we do it? Something got to be done. How you will do it? Something got to be. You cannot just say something got to be. You cannot continue to live in passive voice. You cannot live in passive voice. You must be active. This is what we are doing. To say that somebody this thing must be done doesn't say anything at all. Hmm?
So Basi says one of our major problems as Liberia is our food. Almost everybody from around Africa and also in America loves the Liberian food.
Okay. So can we do that? Can it become the first thing to keep us moving?
Uh, he said our strength is our women and our Liberian food. Well, one of the things I agree with him. One of the things is that Lehman Bowie will be coming to our university to talk about. I mean, look how the women got together during the war,
Mm,
you know, and really stood up to Charles Taylor.
yeah.
Those are strengths, and I think we do tend to accentuate our differences when we are really, I mean, like today, the speaker said, oh, but when the American Liberians came back, they were coming back home. But yet, yeah, we have the dual citizenship bill hanging.
Mm,
People still don't feel that the people who left, some of them through no fault of their own, that they can be citizens. So the thing is, you need. I don't think you can force people. One of the things I find very interesting is like when you make these laws and you say, oh, you cannot hate this man. You cannot legislate feelings.
of course not.
What the person feels inside their home is what they feel. If you say, oh, don't show racism or I'll put you in jail, of course people will not show racism, but that doesn't make them any more any less racist. It's just you have given them laws with a punishment so that they have to hide it. It goes underneath. So now instead of legislating these things, because when it goes underneath, it festers. You need a frank discussion to say, are these your people who left during the war? Yes, these are my people. Do you want them to be able to come back? Yes, I want them to be able to come back. This is the bill. So you need to talk to people. One of the things about the South African Constitution that I read that really amazed me was that nothing in the South African Constitution was voted upon, right? They were all by consensus.
Mm,
When you fight the yeah, so what happened was they had these community groups. So the South African Constitution is one of the few constitutions in the world that has socio-economic rights, right? Like we have the right to assemble, so and so. The South African Constitution has the right to adequate housing, right? But all of those things didn't come. You go in a community, okay, Moses, what you say, let's do this, and you discuss, and then they ask you, what can you live with? right? On a scale of 1 to 10, can you accept this or you cannot accept this? So some people had red line, some people didn't have red line. What is it you can live with? And little by little the groups came together and said, oh, we can do this, no, we can't do this, and that how it became a groundswell until it reached the parliament, right? So that's what we need to do. We need to have frank discussion. You don't Somebody comes and say, what a tribe? I'm a Liberian. That's my tribe. I mean, in Rwanda now, they say it's almost illegal for you to say I'm Hutu and I'm Tutsi. But sometimes I say no. You should be proud of being a Hutu and a Tutsi, but it should not matter.
And that is a very important point, because I think it was at Cornell that I gave this talk, and I point out, you are a specific cultural group. Nobody should take that from you. It is part of accepting and understanding your identity. You must understand that what you can't so easily escape, you must not what? You must not deny it. But what you are saying is that in spite of,
Yes,
I am a Liberian.
yes,
I am Crew, and somebody is Gribble, and you cannot say no, don't. That is what the settlers did, and probably you can understand them because they were few, and allowing those kind of cleavages to come into the picture would be. But right now, it is very much important to, if I am this person, I am that person. But I'm saying, in spite of that, you are a Liberian and I'm a Liberian.
yes,
I love you and you must love me if you want to love me.
yes,
So those things
yes,
put into, otherwise the language gets lost. The cultural things that are beautiful things, the songs and all those things that are supposed, setting traps, taking races and what have you, all these things are very much important. They are cultural aspects that must not be denied. But people must be told that human beings are complex. Human beings are complex. They have what? They exist in multi-layer fashion. You must understand those things, because what you are doing in that process is that you are respecting, you are accepting somebody for who and what that person is. You must not so easily ignore that.
and I think, Prof, you are right. So whether you Grebo, you Crew, you Bandi, you Bassa,
Yes.
so you're all pushing this boulder up, and
Yes.
this boulder is national unity.
Yes.
National unity, because when they said, oh, you can say whether you Hutu or Tutsi in Rwanda, I said no, you should be able to say it, but it does not matter.
Yes.
You see, it does not matter, because if you don't, it will fester in you.
It will
Because
fester in
yes,
you.
because people will call me on the side. I will say, oh,
Yes.
are you Hutu or Tutsi? They will say, no, I'm Rwandan. But then when you go on the side, they will whisper in your ear, I'm Hutu.
Yes.
So which means that they are aware
And
of
I
it.
know, yeah, I know you and I know the context of why they want to deny that,
Yes,
the war and what have you. But still, if we can say that this is a new dispensation, we didn't know better. Now we know better. That in spite of that, there are certain things we have to keep on.
yes, yes. I mean, it's I mean, now it's like almost a cultural revival. I see people going home,
Yes.
people, trying to reclaim
Yes.
culture before, when it was so frowned upon. I mean, for God's sake, we used to have African costume day.
Yes.
I mean, costume day. If
In
you remember,
Africa.
we used to have African
In
costume
Africa.
day, and we would dress up and we would walk proudly on the streets wearing our traditional clothing and calling it African costume day. So these things are things that we now, as Lucia Clark said, the awakening, Prof. It is the awakening now that we must spread to other people. And the awakening it doesn't have anything to do with education. The awakening, according to Camus, is when you say, why?
Right.
Why? Why is this important, or why is this happening? And then you find ways, because if we as a people understand the why,
Yes.
and we start to answer that why, the boulder will go quicker up the hill.
Yes.
You see, it will not take a long time because the people now are poised for takeoff.
We cannot be robots.
Yes.
We cannot be robots. We've got to be thinking, feeling beings. I'm driving, and all of a sudden, a cruise song gets into my mouth, and I'm singing it, and I'm thinking about my days when I was 5 years old and what have you. There is a certain neurological healing that comes to me to know my existence, to know what's made me what I am, and that is true of so many people. And those things, those realities must be brought on the table and what celebrated. That is part of how we move forward.
And you know, Prof, another thing also, and I mean, I don't mean to be so down, but you know, another thing, and I was thinking about this is that when you're on Facebook or other social media, you see so many people writing our stories.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's like, I mean, I know that it's Smithsonian. They have so many papers on Liberia,
Yeah.
but you get there and people interpret what they want to interpret. You know, like we were talking about Stockton. We said
Mhm.
Stockton was not American Liberian. Stockton was an American who came who was giving
Tax to
the thing to
get left for the
purchase
people.
land, to get land, right? And Stockton's book say he had a gun. But when you're listening to people, so unless we come to what is it, you know, we talk about Ella Wheeler Wilcox, who said nothing is ever settled until it is settled right, right? And Achebe says, until lions learn to write,
That's
the
so beautiful.
story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Until lions learn to write, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. But we as a people, we need to come together. You know, either we say, you know what, this COVID or the Ebola or this 175 years, this is the time now for us as one people to move. Or as Lucia Clark said, the boulder will come down again. There's no poise for takeoff because our minds are not where it's supposed to be, you know, and the people who are supposed to help us to reach where we are, some of them are even worse than the people who have not even seen the who haven't even been out of the cave, you know, and that is the problem we face. That is
And
the problem we face.
and for me, this thing has to be done. I I I don't like that language. This thing has to be done. Who is the subject who is doing the doing? Who is the subject that is doing the doing? This thing has to be done. I either begin what a single man travel, and along the way somebody will, my man, you where you running to? No, I'm going there. What is there there? No, I'm going there. And all of a sudden, others will be. But if I sit by the wayside and say, something has to be done, or this road has to be traveled, and nobody, my father, yeah, peace be to his ashes, my father always had a little story. He said there was a guy who whose farm was along the road to other farms. And every time under a large tree, he had his bamboo bench. Early in the morning, people will be going, and they will say, "What are you doing sitting over there?" And he will say, "I'm waiting for sweat. Let sweat. I'm waiting for sweat. And if I start sweating, then I'll start working." And he did that a couple of times, and people started mocking him. That is what societal service, societal work has to be. That people must not wait for sweat before they begin to work. It is within the context of work that sweat and every other thing will come. So I think that has got to be the thing that should be the message here. That it is not enough to engage in passive voice thing. This thing has to be done. It has to be, we are doing this. We are doing this.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I think that we should be able to do, I think you're right that the different ministries, the different people, they should have like a you know, like like they have the a proper agenda. They should
Hmm.
have a national unity agenda,
Hmm.
to bring people together, to say that, we are one people. We are one people, and that's what we always say. We say, I mean, even the indigenous people came from somewhere.
Yeah.
That they can surely say the Kisi and the Gola
Yeah, of
were the
course.
original inhabitants, but they have pygmies. They have pygmies here.
Yeah.
So those people that came when the empires broke up, they came towards the coast for freedom. Whether they were the settlers came for freedom. So
Yeah.
that's a commonality, that we are here for freedom. We
Traveling to
are
a
here.
center. Traveling to a center. We
Yeah.
all travel to a center.
I mean, Liberia's name was Christopolis before.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And the
Molu.
name Liber, no, I mean the name Liber means free.
Uh-huh.
So that is something that we can also try and celebrate this freedom. But we need so many things. Prof. I always say we need also a museum. I mean, Rwanda has the Holocaust Museum. You go there, you see all these things. Apartheid Museum in South Africa, when you go there, I mean, every little thing they kept. We need a museum to show, lest it happen again. I mean, when you go in the Apartheid Museum, you see people telling their stories is recorded. You can listen to them, listen to what happened to this person. They even have the passbook. Oh, this person, they used to use passbook. We need, look, people say, oh, this thing happened so and so. But when you go to the unknown soldier in the United States, right? Or the Vietnam Memorial, people die. People bodies didn't come back to the United States, but they have their names, right? And you see children going and putting their hands, their name, their fingers in the name of their father, because it's a concrete manifestation. We need a concrete manifestation of the war. So people don't say, oh yeah, in a war this happened, this happened. Believe me, 50 years from now, the war would be a distant memory,
Mhm.
because our children who haven't gone through the war will not remember the war. But we need a place that they can go and say, you know what? Oh, this is what happened to my grandfather, or this
And
is what
why?
happened to my village.
And why?
And this is why, lest we forget, we will not repeat it. Why do you think the Holocaust Museum is there? That people go there to donate money and things. People volunteer to go there. Now we have the African American Museum. These
Which is
are
a powerful
physical
thing.
manifestations that we need. Look, when I took my daughter to Liberia, the museum, people, some people, I was asking them, where's the museum? They hardly knew where the museum was, you know. But this is the place you go for people to know. If a foreigner comes, he wants to go to the museum to know about the people, So the information is it information and tourism, or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
more than that. Culture affairs and tourism. You need an upliftment of our culture. You
And
need that.
yes, and even that is one of the problems I had with the Kindija Center, where
Yes.
they had representatives of the 16 cultural groups and what have you. There should have been a place, a hut for call them Congo people or what. There should have been a house or a hut. All those major groupings, they should have had little centers right in their place there. It's just so that the cultural thing is not just somebody gets puts on piassava and is dancing through. If you had even a place where somebody from the settlements was, they have pan music, I understand pan, and this person is playing his guitar, homemade guitar and what have you, King Juice and all those things around it. The whole Liberian mosaic, as Sawyer would say, will be out there. So if you went there, you will see a small group, a miniature group of what? Of other major groups in the society. All those things is not just one-sided type of thing people will do. So it's got to be someone who sits down, or some group that sits down and wants to look at the gamut of things that they can bring together to see working right on in there. So I don't know,
and,
probably.
and you, and you know, I mean, today, what I was saddened about was that you had the Liberian studies, right? Like the second oldest African studies program.
Hmm.
All these new ones are coming. Oh, this is the second oldest. We have the Liberia Studies Journal, and as General Secretary, we have people all over the world, right, subscribing to this journal. Today, we had a young man from Russia
Mhm.
talking about ethnicity in Liberia,
Yeah, that's right.
right? We have people. We have Charles Riley, his name Charles Riley, who learned Pele.
Uh-huh.
Taught himself Pele.
Uh-huh.
He's a librarian. He does languages. The people come and you say, oh, you can come and listen, and they are still sneaking in because they don't want to pay.
Mhm.
But this is the money that supports the journal. But
Mhm.
but the
That's a culture
journal,
of dependency now.
it's a rich repository. Look at some of the topics we have. Uh, uh, Limits of ethnicity in
Mhm.
Liberia Civil War,
Yeah.
right? We had tomorrow we're gonna. I mean, we had today. We had uh, the sugar cane as
Yeah.
a prominent agricultural crop,
Yeah.
right? We have tomorrow we are having Africa's COVID-19 vaccination
Yeah.
presents a pandemic paradox. We have partnership to strengthen support in nursing and midwifery, right? We're talking about integrating mental health and women's empowerment in rural Liberia. We're talking about in the historical part, Carrie Banton. Carrie Banton, we discussed her book. Carrie Banton was the one who went and did her dissertation on the Barbadian immigration
Yeah.
to Liberia. She will be speaking tomorrow. That book is an excellent book,
Mhm.
you know, for auspicious shores.
Yeah.
We have somebody talking about Liberia's the county flags
Yeah.
in historical context.
Mhm.
Somebody, Victor Singler, who always talks about Liberian English, he's going to talk about 300 years of English, 200 years of Liberia linguistics,
Yes.
right? The nexus between Anthony William Gardner and Clarence Simpson, led back to African archaeology. So when you sit here and you listen to people who are doing research on Liberia, Liberia history, Liberia agriculture, Liberia this, these are things that we should, these are part of the
Yeah.
nationalistic
Mhm.
resource that we should have. It's I'm not preaching to the choir, I guess, but the thing is that, you know I think when somebody say, who are you, and you say, oh, my mom is Dolly Collins, if somebody says to me, who are you, I say, oh, my mother was Dolly Collins. Oh, I know the Collins, you from the Collins family. So when people say to you, who are you, I always say to people that when somebody say, where are you from, and you say, I'm from Liberia, your body language tells the people if you are proud of your country or not. I look you in the eye and I say, I'm from Liberia, because I feel that, like, Liberia I carry the weight of Liberia, the power of Liberia. You and I talk about how Liberia was the major player in Africanism, Pan-Africanism, setting up the OAU. Look at the University of Liberia was one of the oldest, one of the best. They taught Latin, Greek, African
Mhm.
languages. So those are things to be proud of. So when somebody say, who are you? We want our young kids to know this glory. The student I was talking to, the Liberian student, I was explaining something, and she looked at me and said, Sis Jackie, what are you talking? She said, the only thing I know is when I was small, I was running from the war. I don't know other thing you're talking about. And I realized that our young kids don't know the Liberia we grew up in. Some will say, well, thank God for that. But we need to give them something that they can be proud of. Something that they can be proud of, Prof. That
Yeah.
even if we have to push that boulder, we will be proud to push that boulder.
Yeah.
You know, it's true. I'm sorry, Presidency, but seriously, you all seem to be taking for granted what you're doing. Ghana may have started working on the citizens' national consciousness long ago. Maybe why we were fighting. We're probably seeing the fruit of efforts done over time. I think we should consider how the war affected us and our sense of pride. It also interrupted us in ways that we are with programs like the Liberian Studies Journal, yours and other programs with FOL. I think are all efforts which are beginning to inform. Yeah, some of us look forward to making time in a week for your program and a few Liberian programs nowadays like we never used to. I continue to save videos on a watch later on YouTube just to make my son watch them on his summer break this May when he comes home from college. That is so nice. Thank you so much. Like I was saying about Professor Maurice Kofa, when he came to register for the conference, he said, "Oh yes, I always save the videos to watch." And I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yes." Yeah, and Tobias said, "All these things the hosts are talking about are money, bringing revenue for our government." Yeah, I mean, look at we have Sapo National Park. Why don't you take people to, and Prof, you know what? One thing I would say to Topasi is that, a lot of the foreigners, when you say Liberia, they still think Ebola. But there's no reason why tourism cannot be with Liberians themselves. You know, in Zambia, like Zambians take off, they go to Victoria Falls. There's no reason that say we can get up as a people and say, okay, you know what, the government could say a bus trip to Patawi, a bus trip to the Blue Lagoon.
So
I
many
see,
things, man. So
yeah,
many
I
things.
see little groups going there. But that's a way to generate money. Sell Liberia to Liberians. When I went home, I went to the Chimpanzee Island. I took my daughter. We got on a canoe with some people. We rowed. We went to the on Farmington River, and I posted the pictures. And people were writing me, "Oh, where is this? Where did you go? How do you get there?" I'm like, "I found it on YouTube."
Okay.
An American had gone to to the Chimpanzee Island, and she wrote, and I saw it, and I said, "Oh, I want to go." So when we went right. You just passed Roberts Field. There's a little road. We got there. There were people sitting with the canoe. They took us across. We fed the chimpanzees. We came back. But these are things, and Tobasi is right. This is revenue generating, revenue generation for the government. They can do this, and we as a people pushing this boulder. These are things we should help the government with. you know yeah, Prof, I sorry, I talk too much, but I just feel like we have a Herculean task. That's what we have. Fixing Liberia is a Herculean task, but it can be done. I would not say it's the task of Sisyphus. I would say it's a
Yes, it
Herculean.
is. The thing about the boulder, we said the boulder is a an amalgamation of problems.
Yeah,
Think of
yeah,
it. So that is what we are carrying, and we can even plug the curse thing from there. But we none of us, we can talk about these things, but none of us understands the cosmological path, the plan, that the force that brought you into this world, the plan that it has for you. You don't know, I don't know. We can guesstimate. So we are operating on the guesstimation. We have this boulder. Yes, if it is the creating of massive information for all of us to know and appreciate, that is part of the boulder. And yet we have to push it. As you said earlier, we get to a point where we have to ask ourselves the question, when does this boulder stop? Unfortunately, it may not stop, but we can make the rolling a little palatable. We can do that and see programs that we can provide, people who can come around to make those programs work. And sometimes, in the beauty of it all, this is where the happiness lies, as Camus was saying. So that which you cannot obviate, you can try as much as possible to handle and push forward. So we can do all these things. And part of the indigenous grouping, when you go on a farm during farming season, and these people begin to plant, when it gets to the point where the women are planting a rice, and there is someone in the background who is playing the music. Within less than an hour, the people move from one end of the farm to the other. They are working. Working brings pain and what have you. And yet, with the music in the background, they are doing what they ought to do. So if we can, yes, we have this boulder, but if we can create programs, if we can make it meaningful, then it is not what work anymore. It is what it is. I mean, somebody will say, "Well, how do they say it?" They say, "My work is not a work anymore. It is a job," or something of that nature. Whatever that person is saying, in essence, is that when I go to this place and I'm doing it, and it is pleasurable, then it is good to do. So we may have this boulder, but we don't have to sit in the corner pitying ourselves because we find ways, strategies of making the boulder go up and down, even if it is to eternity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, Prof.
yeah.
And as we come to a close now, we just want to say thank you. Prof, do you have any more last words or
No, no,
okay?
just we've got to a point now where it's got to be meeting of minds time. This is meeting of minds time.
Yes,
They're quacking in a corner here and there. No, the quacking must stop. This has to be meeting of the minds and let us move on with what one resolve.
yeah. So today we talk about the myth of Sisyphus.
Yes.
We've been discussing a lot of seminar works, waiting for Godot.
Yes.
That's what we are doing, waiting for Godot. We talk about we spoke about 12 Angry Men. We
Yes.
discussed the allegory of the cave.
Yes.
Yeah,
From
today, like we said,
Galileo.
it's the myth of Sisyphus. So,
Yes.
so and we come here. I mean, we ran from the Liberian Studies Conference today to come here, not because we don't have anything to do, but sometimes I even say to Prof, I'm tired, and Prof said no, we will continue because even if we reach one person, but yes, we're trying to, as Lucia Clark said, awaken. But really, our job is like we always said at the beginning, we're all on a journey, and the journey is to know. How do we know and how do we apply this knowledge to get where we want to go? So we and it's true that we may push the boulder up but not all the way to the top, and we may be gone and our kids will come and push it further, but we have to push it. you know our country cannot remain
Mm-mm.
where it is. you know we've been discussing history. We went through a lot talking about the different phases in Liberia's history. And every time it's almost like every time we're poised for takeoff, something happens, something traumatic happens, and we roll back down. But we are one people. And the minute we start to say that to ourselves, we are one people. We are one people. We keep saying that. I always say that sometimes when you say it from your lips to God's ears, we're one people. And if we continue on the on our on I mean, continue discussing this and saying, you know what, we have to fix our country, and we have to start in our little ways. Maybe some people are waiting for the government, but start where you are. Like Prof. Nagbe says, it could be as little as sweeping in front of your house.
Yes.
It could be as little as when somebody walking in the dirty water, putting a little board for a bridge so they pass. And from that, people see you doing it and say, "Oh, I want to do that." Or you can say, I always said, it would be nice to go home one day and say, you know what, let's do a country cook, and everybody go to like to LU and paint LU. Because LU should be cleaned. It should be painted. This is where we got our education.
It's our
People,
pride.
yeah, people say, "Oh, you got advanced degrees." I said, "No, no, no, no. We got degrees, but we were educated at
Yes.
LU.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we were educated there. That's what makes us to be able to get these advanced degree. No country is wholly bad. So we always end by saying, lift Liberia up.
Yes.
Lift Liberia up. You know, if you want to say bad about Liberia, think also about your children listening.
Mm-hmm.
If you are gone, would your children want to even go to a place that you've been talking bad about? No, they wouldn't want to do that. Uh, uh, um, yesterday I was in a seminar, and there's a student, and she brought her boyfriend who is Liberian. As soon as she said that to me, I said, "Come, come, come." And I ran up with him and I showed him the LSA that was on, and we talked, and he said, "Oh, thank you so much. I left Liberia as a young child." But I gave him the link. I said, "Okay, come and listen to the Liberian Studies Conference." So we are one people. So let's keep saying that. Let's keep saying that. And reach out to each other. We can't be scared of each other. "Oh, that man, a Liberian male, don't go near him." We're not saying that you got to embrace him to your bosom, but we are saying that you can say we share commonalities. And the more we talk about it, like I said, it will come true. So thank you very much for tonight. We ask you again to mask up. If you don't wear mask, keep your safe distance, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget, as the song says, we are all Liberians. So We are all Liberians. Yeah. Hey, Prof.
Yeah. Yeah, la be man.